Nearly all of us have been spending more time online than ever over the past few months, and that's been true of kids too, who now have to rely on the internet for their classes and to keep in touch with friends they can't see in person, often without much parental supervision. So with no end to our online reliance in sight, there's increasing concern about how vulnerable kids are to online predators in the age of coronavirus. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children says they got nearly double the number of reports of online enticement over the first half of this year compared to the same period in 2019. And their data shows the average age of sex trafficking victims reported missing just 15 years old. My next guest knows firsthand how quickly exploitation that starts in cyberspace can become a real-world danger. In an interview with the Boston Globe magazine's Linda Machen, Sarah Cooper explained how she was befriended by a male stranger on Facebook when she was 15. He used the nickname, didn't show his face in pictures, but based on conversations through the Facebook app, Sarah said, quote, he seemed to be around her age, and they connected over music like pop artist Kesha and Nicki Minaj, Twilight, and frustrations with parents. Sarah said the man made it seem like he adored her. So when he asked for sexually explicit photos, she said yes. And when her 18th birthday rolled around and he asked to meet up in person, she did. But, quote, as soon as she saw him, she knew something did not add up. He looked a lot older than he'd let on, closer to 40 than 18. The man took her to a house in Boston where he and his friends plied her with alcohol and cocaine and forced her to have sex on tape, calling it an addition. And from there, he brought her to New York in a dingy motel guarded around the clock by armed men, where Sarah says she and several other girls were forced into sex slavery. But after a week and a half being held hostage, she was able to call a friend from Boston to come rescue her. Now, 5 years later, Sarah and her mom, Lisette Cooper, are working to make sure what happened to her doesn't happen to anyone else. Lisette and Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
Thank you so much. We're so happy to be here tonight.
It's my pleasure.
Sarah, can I start with you? Were there times that you were being held hostage where you said to yourself, I am never going to get out of here?
I think I said that to myself almost every second. I didn't have a lot of hope when this was happening.
So how did you stay sane?
You know, that's a hard question to answer. I had a lot of strength inside me, and it was merely just holding on.
I know you said in the story to Linda Machen that there were other girls who were being preyed upon in that same motel. Did you ever have an opportunity to communicate with any of them to find out if similar circumstances had caused them to end up there as well, or no?
So I can't speak on that too much. There were other girls being held captive when I was there, yes.
So I know that was a long time ago. You were 18, but you chose not to tell anyone, not police, not your mother at the time. Why did you make that decision, Sarah?
I was scared. I was filled with fear. I didn't know who to reach out to. I was grasping for any connection. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, the people who I needed the most, like my mom, I pushed them away.
You know, Lisette, one of the most incredible parts of this incredible story is you are working on and doing research and organizing a conference on the issue of online sexual exploitation while not knowing a thing about what happened to your daughter. Do you find that to be as incredible as I'm sure every reader of this piece does?
It's really amazing. I mean, I thought that Sarah, might have done something like shared pictures or something like that online, but nothing like the story that I heard from her.
And when you were doing this work and doing this organizing, you turned to her and asked her what she had ever experienced on Facebook, online, expecting, again, the sort of minor things, I don't know if they're minor, but things that a lot of kids get themselves into. And what did Sarah tell you?
And then she told me this whole story about having been groomed online and having, met this man online and then having been abducted and this whole situation in New York. And it was really quite shocking. I was really floored. So
how did you feel, Sarah? What caused you at that moment to feel you were able to tell your mother what you hadn't been able to tell her before?
I think our relationship has evolved so much over the years. I think a lot of people struggle with the mother-daughter relationship, and it's hard and it's difficult. But I got to the point where I truly, in my heart, felt that no matter what I told my mom, that she would be there for me, and she has been.
I have to say, Sarah Cooper, and I'm sure everybody who reads this piece will say the same thing, your strength explodes off the pages of the Boston Globe magazine. How did you come to the conclusion that you not only speak to your mother about what happened to you, but you'd be willing to speak publicly about what happened to you?
I am in the field of psychology, so I've been learning about this throughout my whole degree, and it got to the point where enough was enough. These stories, the stories of children being victimized, they need to be shared. It needs to be publicly talked about. There's a stigma. There's a negative connotation around these topics.
But you also felt that the Me Too movement helped remove that stigma from survivors, so you benefited as well. Lisette, you two are now on a joint crusade, and by the way, I love the image of the two of you sitting next to each other, by the way, for whatever that's worth. But I know you both are in a crusade to prevent this from happening to other girls in the future. Other than the predators themselves, is Silicon Valley the major culprit here in your estimation?
Well, it's really a tremendous problem. There's tech companies really do need to clean up their act, and some people want to point fingers at parents, but kids can't be supervised, 24/7. Kids can be sneaky, and Facebook, just to name one example, has 2 billion users. It's a huge platform, along with other technology companies, and kids this is the neighborhood they spend their time on all day long. So they really need to work to have tools on the platform, to have monitors, to really protect our kids. Our kids need to be in a safe neighborhood.
Well, you also said, Lisette, if I remember correctly, that what they are doing in the name of privacy, this end-to-end encryption, is also sort of guaranteeing the ability of predators to commit crimes. Are we getting anywhere on that issue or no?
Yeah. So really, what happened is that there were a group of women. I'm in the investment firm, and we wanted to really we're outraged by the issues of sexual predators in our society. There are a lot of different issues, from the Access Hollywood tape that we saw to folks like R. Kelly or Jeffrey Epstein. There were a lot of issues with sexual predators, and it's gone from in person to online, to things like Sarah has experienced. And so we...
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's a huge problem. We saw last year that there were something like 18 million reports of child sex abuse material to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children that came from online. That's where it's happening right now. That's where predators are finding their victims. So as moms, for women investors, as moms, we wanted to do something about the problem. And what we found that is a huge issue, that if we go to privacy tools that seem like they're really good, like end-to-end encryption should be good, but it's not good if it means that predators are protected. They have privacy. If their privacy trumps the safety of our children.
But Lisette, if the social media platforms won't police themselves, isn't it government's responsibility to mandate the policing? Don't they have to step in to protect girls like Sarah?
Well, there is a lot of government regulation. What we're interested in is to protect the ability of law enforcement, just the everyday, cop on the beat that can get a warrant right now. That if it's a telephone record, they can get a warrant to go in and listen in on a conversation the predator's having with a kid. But if it's online, and they go to end-to-end encryption, they won't be able to get those records.
I understand. Sarah, I know it's been a bunch of years. Do you have any interest in pursuing the man who did this to you?
I hope that there will be justice.
What do you say to a 15-year-old who's watching tonight, Sarah, the age you were when this all began? What do you tell that 15-year-old?
If you are being targeted, if you know someone who's been targeted, reach out. They try to alienate you, and predators succeed. You cannot let that happen.
And Lisette, what do you say to the parents of that 15-year-old who is watching tonight?
Oh, gosh. I think I say to the parents of the 15-year-old is to raise up your voices for awareness of this issue, that your kid needs somebody to talk to. It may not be you. Your kid needs to talk to somebody, and we can't do this alone. This is a big social problem. We need the technology companies to step in. We need appropriate legislation. We really need to know this could happen to anyone. This could happen to your kid right now when they're online right now. It happens everywhere. It happens disproportionately to kids who are Black and Latino, but it happens to everyone. So we need to band together to pay attention, and don't blame yourself. Get help for your kid. And we all have to be in this together.
I'll tell you, on my behalf, on the behalf of everybody watching, we owe you both a huge debt of gratitude. Sarah and Lisette Cooper, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.